Chapter 9, Family of Zixue. Mr. Zhuang stood at the lectern and addressed the class. In a month, the annual Academy Martial Arts competition will take place. In this last month, I hope everyone will work diligently to raise their cultivation level a notch. I will choose the 2 strongest from amongst you to represent our class in the competition. Huixing asked, "Teacher, are there any rewards for those who achieve rankings?" Mr. Zhuang gave a faint smile and replied, "Indeed, there are. The top 3 in the grade will receive a piece of quality equipment from the academy. The higher your ranking, the better the equipment. Also, if anyone here becomes the champion, I will give a special reward in class. Only the champion will get a class reward. As for what the reward will be, it's a secret for now. But rest assured, it won't be something mediocre. I have high expectations for you all. I hope you don't let me down." His words immediately piqued everyone's interest, with many students vying to voice their commitment to hard work. In Huixing's eyes, I could genuinely see the enthusiasm. However, what he didn't know was that Mr. Zhuang had already chosen someone, so his chances of receiving the equipment were almost nil. Fengwan stood up, her voice filled with pride. "Teacher, just let me compete, and I assure you, I will bring the championship title for our grade." Watching her plump and arrogant demeanor, I couldn't help but chuckle. Such a competitive spirit in this chubby girl. After class, Fengwan approached me, remarking, "Leixiang, after your confinement, you seem different." I stared at him in surprise. It's no wonder he's my equal in skill. He had noticed the growth in my abilities. I replied nonchalantly, "Oh? In what way?" "I haven't noticed any change." Fengwan said, "There definitely is. I can't pinpoint it, but you no longer seem as cold as before. Instead, you radiate a deeper aura. I might not stand a chance against you now." I just smiled. "Perhaps you're just being overly sensitive. I don't feel any different." Gazing at my smile, Fengwan commented, "See? Have you ever smiled like this before?" Without thinking, I touched my face. True, why do I smile so often now? Zixue really has a profound impact on me. I patted him on the shoulder. "Keep training hard. I hope to face you in the final competition." Fengwan replied, "Leixiang, are you so confident you'll make it to the finals? You do know that our magic warrior class always ends up at the bottom, right? Students who specialize in martial techniques or magic tend to progress faster than us." I shot him a glance. Confidence is the best weapon. You'll see in the competition. My 3 months of confinement had significantly improved my power and bolstered my confidence. In my heart, I only see one real opponent, Li Hua from the 5th year. He's the only one who can truly ignite my fighting spirit. Maybe he's out of my league, but I want to see how far I am from him. Shaking his head, Fengwan responded, "The same old arrogant you. Let's go get something to eat." I declined. "I can't. I have plans." Realizing my intent, Fengwan grinned. "You're the first in the academy to pursue a girl so openly. I admire you for that. Do introduce a top-tier beauty to me someday. I'll leave you to it and grab a bite with Fengyun." That big-mouth Fengyun, I can't let him in on anything anymore. Walking to the cafeteria, Zixue was already waiting for me under a tree. She stood there, resembling a pristine lily set against green leaves. I apologized, "Sorry for making you wait." A friend held me up. Zixue smiled sweetly, "It's all right. Let's go." As I reached out to hold her hand, she evaded me, whispering, "Too many people here. It's not appropriate. Besides, the academy doesn't allow." I sighed, "Fine, I respect your choice." She smiled, "Let's eat." Entering the bustling cafeteria, I noticed many eyes on us. Thanks to my challenge to the top student and my association with Zixue, I was now a campus celebrity. I got Zixue the best food and settled for 2 medium meals for myself. Watching Zixue eat daintily, I remarked, "You eat too little. How will you maintain your health? Look at me, what I eat in 1 meal probably lasts you a week." I pointed to my heap of food. She giggled, if I ate as much as you, I'd be so fat you'd stop liking me. I frowned, what do you take me for? Realizing her faux pas, she quickly amended, I'm sorry. I'll eat more, okay? Changing the topic, I asked, where's that bratty girl who's always with you? Zixue glanced around and whispered, keep it down. She went home for dinner. If she heard you call her that, she'd go ballistic. I spent so much time consoling her yesterday. And you, acting like a child, needing me to console you too. I smiled, well, you're older, so consoling me shouldn't be a big deal. And she's inherently bratty. Can't I even comment on it? She's been pampered since childhood. Why do you always eat at home? The food here is good. Zixue replied, our home food is definitely better. Plus, every time we come here, we get stares, making it hard to eat peacefully. I grumbled, anyone dares to stare at you, and I'll tear them apart. Zixue held my hand urgently and said, what are you doing? Your wild side is showing again. Can you really control what everyone sees? My sister originally asked me to have lunch with her, but you invited me out. I asked in confusion, sister? Which sister? Zixue looked at me as if I was an alien, then finally said, you don't know my sister's name? How uninformed you are. I responded with a carefree smile, is your sister that famous? I don't think she's the #1 expert in the academy. Zixue boasted, of course my sister is famous. While she might not be the top expert, she is definitely the #1 beauty. I was taken aback, the most beautiful in the academy? Isn't that an exaggeration? Your duke of a father did a great job, both his daughters are beauties. How many siblings do you have in total? Don't tell me there's another rank to beauty. Zixue playfully hit me and giggled, no more. Just me and my sister. Many guys pursue her, not fearing the academy's rules. They openly express their interest, especially that Li Hua. He's the most persistent. I realized, no wonder he was so courteous to you yesterday. It's because of your sister. What's her name? Zixue replied, her name is Zi Yan, a third-year student practicing light magic. She's the vice principal's prized pupil. I paused. Light magic? That sounds so awkward. Probably because it contrasts with the dark magic I practice. After all, they naturally counteract each other. Luckily, our lunch went smoothly. In the afternoon, I returned to my dormitory to practice my Wild God technique. Ever since breaking through the first level, my training speed has been quite fast. Although there's still a distance to the second level, I'm confident I'll reach it before the competition. The progress of my demon technique is especially rapid. The third level should be harder than the second, but my current speed surpasses that of the past. If things continue like this, my fallen angel transformation will soon be realized. Li Hua, I'm not afraid of you. It's just a pity I can't use it freely. The next morning, as I was about to take Black Dragon out of the academy for a run, I bumped into Zixue. Excitedly, I said, what a pleasant surprise. Up early to see me? Let's take Black Dragon for a walk. Zixue gently stroked Black Dragon's head, a heavy look hidden beneath her expression. Sensing something was wrong, I urgently asked, what happened? She suddenly threw herself into my arms, crying. I embraced her and asked, tell me, what happened? Did someone hurt you? I'll make them pay. Cold murderous intent radiated from me. She shook her head, nobody hurt me. Surprised, I asked, then why are you like this? Pulling away, she whispered, my father found out about us. Relieved, I said, is that all? Sooner or later, your parents would have known. Zixue stared at me, isn't this serious? I shrugged, what's the big deal? How did he find out? She sighed, someone in the academy probably tipped him off, especially with all the commotion you caused. He's very stubborn. If he thinks you're not good enough, no amount of talking or doing will change his mind. He told me to bring you home tonight. I laughed, don't worry. With my credentials, how can he disapprove? Meeting the parents so soon, that's unexpected. She said, "Aren't you worried?" My father has a famous temper. I coldly replied, "As you know, I'm not exactly a pushover." For the first time, Zixue lost her temper, roaring like a lioness. "Is that how you meet parents?" "More like a duel." "That's my father. Do you intend to fight him?" She looked utterly adorable with her flushed face. I pulled her into an embrace, passionately kissing her. After a moment, I said softly, "I promise not to clash with your father. Is that okay? Don't be mad." She leaned into me. "You better keep that promise. Our future depends on it." I nodded. "Trust me, I'll get it done." Sitting in class, my thoughts wandered to the evening's impending challenge meeting the Duke, a powerhouse on par with the Prince. Mars, sitting beside me, nudged me, whispering, "Lei Xiang, focus. Teacher Zhuang has been watching you." Apologizing with a smile, I refocused on the lecture. Soon, it was lunch. Zixue had told me she wouldn't be joining, as she needed to prepare at home. After eating, I returned to my dorm to continue practicing the Wild God technique. Strengthening my abilities was paramount. Eventually, Feng Yun rushed in. "Lei Xiang, hurry. Zixue is looking for you." Stopping my practice, I asked, "What time is it?" Feng Yun replied, "Look outside. It's almost dark." Zixue seemed anxious. True enough, dusk had settled. I quickly changed into my best outfit and met an anxious Zixue outside. She said, "Hurry. My father despises tardiness." We hurried along. On the way, she reminded me, "When you meet my father, be respectful." I smiled. "Don't worry, I've dealt with many officials before. It'll be fine." Zixue said, "Also, my father might test your skills. Be prepared." I asked in surprise, "What rank is your father?" Zixue glanced at me and replied, "He's probably a mid-tier light knight. It's been a long time since I've seen him in action." I was taken aback and exclaimed, "Then your father is on par with an average dragon knight?" Zixue said proudly, "Of course. Do you think his title of duke came easily? Even though he's a civil officer, by the time he reached his position, he obviously had to know how to defend himself. While he might not be on the same level as the three great marshals, he's still a renowned expert in the capital." I frowned and said, "How can I compete with him? I'm merely at the swordmaster level. While I have confidence in myself, I wouldn't be foolish enough to think I could rival a light knight." Zixue laughed, "So you do get scared sometimes. Don't worry, at most he'll just be testing you. He won't seriously fight you. Look, we're here. Let's hurry inside." Lifting my gaze, I realized we had arrived at the Duke's mansion. I steadied my mind and followed Zixue in. The residence was befitting of a duke. It was impossible to gauge the size of the entire yard. The walls were about 12 feet high, and inside the main gate, numerous guards patrolled the grounds. The courtyard wasn't lavishly decorated, but it was elegantly designed, clearly by someone extraordinary. Zixue boasted, "Impressive, isn't it? My sister designed it all." Hearing this, I became more curious about the top beauty of the academy I had yet to meet. After all, it's rare to find a woman who embodies both wisdom and beauty. Zixue approached a servant and inquired, "Where's my father?" The servant respectfully replied, "The Duke is in the living room. He instructed that as soon as you return, you should see him immediately." Zixue nodded, "Got it, you may go." "Lei Xiang, my father is waiting for us." I noticed her hand was slightly cold and sweaty, revealing her anxiety. Squeezing her hand for reassurance, I said, "Don't worry, I'll make sure he approves of me." Upon entering the living room, the first thing that struck me was the vast hall, roughly about 300 square meters. At the far end, a man in his 40s, dignified in appearance, sat in the main seat. One could imagine how handsome he must have been in his youth. A massive nine-dragon painting hung on the wall behind him. This must be Zixue's father. To his left sat a beautiful woman, her age indiscernible. If someone told me she was Sishue's sister, I might have believed it. However, from her headpiece, I recognized her status as a married woman. Could she be Sishue's mother? This would explain why Sishue and her sister are among the 8 beauties of the academy. My eyes then shifted to the right, where a breathtaking beauty in a light blue gown sat. She looked about my age and bore a resemblance to Sishue, but was even more enchanting. She smiled at Sishue's entrance but didn't glance my way. This aloof beauty, exuding a holy aura likely from years of practicing light magic, must be Xiao. Before I could absorb it all, Sishue had already rushed forward, addressing the middle-aged man, "Father, I'm back. This is Lei Xiang." I quickly stepped forward, bowing slightly, "Greetings, Your Grace. I am Lei Xiang." The Duke nodded, his face unreadable. He said softly, "Look at me." I straightened up, meeting his gaze. The Duke's sharp eyes scanned me from head to toe. Sishue discreetly signaled to her mother, who interjected, "My lord, just look at this young man's stature. It's rare to see someone so tall and imposing." The Duke merely grunted in acknowledgement, then addressed me, "Lei Xiang, I've heard that you've publicly proclaimed your intentions to pursue my daughter at Tiandu Academy. Is that true?" I nodded, "Yes." The Duke frowned, "Then you should know that romantic relationships between students are prohibited at Tiandu Academy." Again, I nodded, "I'm aware." Standing abruptly, the Duke said with a hint of anger, "Since you're aware, I hope you'll cease pursuing my daughter." I looked at him directly, replying, "I'm sorry, but I can't." A cold aura emanated from me. "Keep me away from Sishue? Even if you're her father, it's not possible." Everyone's attention was on me, and Sishue was tugging at my clothes. The Duke became enraged, "Who do you think you are? Do you believe you're worthy of my daughter?" I calmly responded, "Whether I'm worthy or not should be for Sishue to decide. As a duke, you shouldn't belittle me because of my current status. If we go back 30 years and you were in love with a noble woman, would you give her up just because of her father's words? One's status can change over time. Who knows, in 10 or 20 years, my position might be no less than yours." My tone was neither humble nor aggressive. Everyone was shocked. No one expected me to challenge the Duke directly. Sishue exclaimed, "Lei Xiang, you promised." I thought to myself, "Sishue, how can you understand your father's mindset? If I were submissive, he'd only look down on me. It might be risky, but there's still a chance." The Duke gestured to silence Sishue and appeared deep in thought. After a moment, he said, "Fine. Since you're so ambitious, let's see if you have the skill to back up your words. Prepare yourself." He swiftly pushed Sishue away and lunged at me with a palm strike, enveloped in a formidable aura. It seemed he wanted to force me into a direct confrontation. As the Duke initiated his attack, I mustered all the energy I could. Whether I could make a good impression or not depended on my performance here. My concentration peaked, channeling the wild god dueling energy into my right fist. Taking a slight step to the left with my left leg and grounding my stance, I yelled, "Hey," and sent a punch flying forward. The fighting energy surged from my right fist, forming a pale yellow column of energy which met with the Duke's right palm. But something was amiss. The Duke's fighting energy wasn't projecting outwards, but was rather contained within. My energy barely affected him upon contact. When our fists met, I felt the calm and steady flow of the Duke's energy, delivering 7 consecutive blows, each more powerful than the last. With a loud bang, a violent whirlwind erupted around us. Xian, remarkably composed, promptly summoned a barrier of light, enclosing the Duke and me. The scattered fighting energy rocked the barrier, but none escaped. I stumbled back 7 steps, finally stopping when I crashed into the barrier Xian had erected. A hint of surprise flashed in the Duke's eyes. He chuckled and swiftly approached, sending another palm strike. His reputation as a Knight of Light was indeed well-deserved. As I quickly unleashed various basic magic attacks to distract the Duke, I simultaneously concentrated the wild god energy once again and roared, "Tempest." This time, I didn't aim at the Duke but slammed my fist hard on the ground. In this perilous moment, I cared not for damage. I unleashed the first move of the Wild Godfist Tempest, the only move I could muster. The Duke projected his fighting energy outwards, effortlessly blocking my spells. Realizing I wasn't retaliating, and possibly fearing for my life, his energy weakened a fraction. Just then, the ground beneath him erupted. A powerful column of energy, accompanied by debris, shot up, hitting his palm. It wasn't that I didn't want to strike him from below or from behind, but given his prowess, such moves might not harm him. This direct attack on his hand would not only resolve the current crisis, but would also leave a positive impression. Surely, he'd understand I wanted a fair fight. When the ground exploded, the Duke sensed danger and swiftly changed his motion to meet the tempest keyed in. The immense recoil left me in searing pain. Relying on my exceptional physical defenses, I kept from bleeding profusely. Caught off guard, the Duke was also pushed back a step. The violent gusts and debris broke through Xian's barrier, filling the entire living room with smoke and dust. I was on high alert for another attack, ready to use the demon seal if needed. A situation I hoped to avoid. The Duke remained stationary, emitting a thick layer of fighting energy, forming a protective shield around him. Xian quickly cast a defensive spell to protect both herself and Zixue. There was a fleeting change in her gaze towards me. The Duchess, on the other hand, was protected by a pale blue aura of her own fighting energy. The Duke nodded at me, impressive. To withstand 2 palm strikes with 50% of my strength, you rank highly among the younger generation. You're probably a year junior to Zixue. I predict your potential might rival that of Liwa. Damn, Liwa again. Why compare me to him? I responded, thank you for the praise. Can you now entrust Zixue to me? The Duke laughed heartily. When did I say I would entrust Zixue to you? You're being too optimistic. I angrily retorted, weren't you testing me just now? He replied, I was merely gauging your strength. To court my daughter, you need to pass my test first. You barely did. But remember, she's too young, and Tiantu forbids dating. So, don't get too close to her. Understood? I sighed with relief, thank you. I won't get too close to Zixue. The Duke nodded, I'm only provisionally approving of you. Don't celebrate too early. Your future depends on your actions. Fail to meet my standards, and I'll cut off your relationship with Zixue. Stunned, I asked, what standards? He smirked, marrying into my family isn't easy. You have potential and a solid foundation, but there's a gap in strength. Also, you can't expect me to marry my daughter off to a commoner, right? Enough of this. Servants, see the guest out. As I was escorted out, I pondered his words and it hit me I'd been played. Damn that Duke. He merely provisionally approved of me, which is almost like not approving at all. Plus, he demands I enhance my strength and take up an official position. What's his standard anyway? Does he expect me to become a dragon knight? Frustrated, I returned to the dorm and practiced the demon seal as usual, the chilling pain calming my agitation. The next day, I met Zixue in the cafeteria and complained, your father's really crafty. He tested me, so why the additional conditions? She smiled, you think achieving a high rank is easy? My father worked hard for his position. If he schemes against you, you're helpless. However, he did express his admiration for you after you left. I snorted, I don't care about his admiration. As long as you admire me, that's enough. If he disagrees with us, I'll elope with you. Blushing, Zixue giggled, stop being silly. My expression changed, you wouldn't go with me?